Okay, so I think the video I'm going to do today is basically describing the scope of our operation and kind of how we've gone from, a small family farm to a couple rental farms and eventually being able to buy our own farm. So back in 2010, the farm I'm at right now is in Spencer County. I was fortunate enough to be able to start renting that in 2010 from a retired dairy farmer who still lived on the property. And we only had maybe 10 cows or so. I think I bought about 10 more. And again, that was in, I think, the fall of 2010. I had a few cows at my parents' place in Winchester at that time. We started renting 2 fields that totaled about 100 acres. And then he ran steers on the front of the property, and then he decided after 4 or 5 years he didn't want to do that anymore, and he started renting the front of the property to us. So altogether it's about 160 acres now. We started off by buying bred cull cows, basically. Well, I guess they're technically not culls, but they were older bred cows that were still in good condition. Bought them from the stockyards, and basically started keeping back replacement heifers and started finishing out the steers for beef. I think in the very beginning had a black Angus bull that my dad had bought when he had a few cows. Used a red pole bull for a couple years and then switched over to red Angus and have been using primarily red Angus since then. But this farm is basically the core of our commercial herd. We run about right around 50 spring calving cows that start calving around March the 20th. Right now I think we're down to 46 head, but I've got replacement heifers that I'm holding back for next year. So anyway, that's kind of where we are here, and I'll kind of just go through the days I'm at the farm. I'll go through and kind of explain what our operation looks like. So just real briefly, this farm's about a 30-minute drive from where we live, and it only has 3 paddocks or 3 pastures that are fenced off. So we basically rotate them about anywhere from once a week to every 3 or 4 weeks. So I don't have time to be down here every day. So, I mean, there's sometimes I maybe only here once a week. So this field they're in, I just moved them in this field, and I'll kind of backtrack and I'll show you me moving them, and I'll show you the cow we affectionately call Grandma. I'll show you her calf that was born recently. The field I just put them into should hold them anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the time of year. The next field I'll move them into after this is about 60 acres, and it should hold them also around 3 weeks, sometimes up to 4. And then the field they just came out of usually only holds them about a week and a half. So this is less intensive, but it's further away, and we don't really have time to manage it as intensively. So hopefully that gives a start for kind of where we started, and I'll kind of go through each farm as I'm there and piece all these videos together. So I hope you enjoy just kind of seeing, the scope of our operation and the way we do things. At our farm in Spencer County, rotating cows to the new pasture. They're following along behind me. I'm calling them and taking them to fresh grass. Calf looks good. I'll see if it's a bull or a heifer. One thing I just realized I've never really mentioned is I am a full-time veterinarian. So have a veterinary practice in Shelbyville, Kentucky. I'm a partner with 2 other people. And so that's my full-time job. So again, all this stuff you're seeing that we're doing is basically myself and my wife. My wife does not have an off-farm job, but we do have 2 children, and that takes a lot of time with their activities, and she does a lot of volunteer work, does a lot with the church. We both do, for that matter. So this is something that we do on a part-time basis. So you don't necessarily have to do this full-time. And again, so we spend a lot of nights, a lot of weekends, and I have one day off during the week, and a lot of times that gets filled with farm work, for better or worse. So yeah, I just thought I'd throw that out there and You know, I didn't start doing these videos to give veterinary advice. You know, my passion is grazing cattle, and that's what, you know, I want to talk about on these videos, and I hope to give you all a little insight and maybe tips and advice, and maybe you can learn from some of the mistakes I've made and some of the things that have worked well. So we'll, I guess, head to the next farm. Okay, it's the evening of June the 23rd in 2023, and I'm in Winchester after came up here after work tonight. We're sorting out steers to take to the processor this coming Wednesday. Today's Friday. So just want to show you kind of the operation in Winchester. I'll probably do a more in-depth video in the future, but I wanted to kind of give you an overview of this is where we finished a lot of our steers, and this is a farm that's owned by my parents. Okay, so again, we're in Clark County, not too far from Winchester, Kentucky. What you see down at the bottom of the hill are the 24 steers that are still here. They're almost all 2-year-old steers. This farm's about 45 acres, and we use a little bit of our neighboring farm. Neighbors have about 15 to 20 acres that they let us use for part of the year. This is where we finish most of our steers. Again, so we have this field is normally cut in half, so there's the left side and the right side, and then the field I'm standing in, across the way there's a field that belongs to the neighbors that we use, and then again the neighbors have another back field. The field I'm standing in, there's another field back here, and then another field over where the tree is. And we basically rotate through these fields. They get roughly rotated every 5 days. Ideally we shoot for each field having about you know, about 30 days of rest. I'll show you the steers that we sorted out that we're getting ready to take. One thing I will mention is my dad does help me a lot on this farm. You know, this is about an hour and 10 minutes from where we live, and he does a lot of the rotating pastures. So I set up the fence for the most part. He helps do that some, and then he helps rotate pastures when they need to be rotated. So he does a lot here to help us out, and he helps in the winter. I try to bale graze here and pre-set out as much hay as I can. We overwintered about 40 yearlings. Like I say, we had about 33 left, so we've processed a few in the last few months, and we're taking 9, and I'll show you those. Okay, so here's the steers we're getting ready to take. See if they'll walk away from me here. Come on, Kev. Come on. Come on. Come on. So you can get a better look at them. There we go. So these are steers that we're getting ready to take. Sometimes pictures are hard to give them justice, but I'm guessing the smaller ones will probably weigh around 900. The bigger ones, I'm thinking they'll weigh at least 1,100, maybe some of them close to 1,200. It's kind of what we're shooting for. Again, these are 2-year-old. Most of these turn 2 in April, end of March or April, and it's June now, so they're a few months over 2 years old. Yeah, so that's kind of what we're looking at. I'm trying to move some of these around a little more. I guess. Okay, so that's all at Winchester for now, and I'll try to do a little more in-depth video in the future, explain our rotations a little bit more, and I'll show you guys the other farms. Okay guys, so it's Saturday, June 24th, and we're at the farm that we actually own. Well, it's not paid for yet, but we're making that happen. The first farm we bought in 2015. We're in Baghdad, Kentucky. Cows are behind me. I'm getting ready to move them and rotate them into the next pasture. This farm's about 60 acres, and this is where we have currently have about 20 fall calving cows, and then there's about 15 or 16 yearlings. Some of those they'll be turning 2 this fall, so some of those are bred heifers. Some of those are steers that we'll make beef out of this fall. And this is the farm. When I talk about my fall calving cows, this is where we were. So again, bought this farm about 2015. The first farm we were able to actually purchase. We've since then been able to add on to the farm by purchasing the neighboring farm a couple of years ago, and then actually just made a recent purchase as well. But I'll show you that here in a second, and I'm gonna move these cows. Okay, so I just moved these cows. I mean, it literally just called them and they came walking through the gap. You know, it doesn't take a lot of time to rotate cattle once you have your fence set up. I do what I'd call permanent single strand electric, so I'm not out here every day moving the fence. I've got the fence preset, and you know, that's part of the efficiency of trying to use the time wisely, and you know, having multiple farms, and you know, you got to kind of make things manageable for the time that you have to spend. So yeah, so we just moved them into fresh ground. Okay, we're still in Baghdad. This is what I call the new part of the farm. This is the part of the farm we bought about 2 years ago. This part of the farm is about 76 acres, I think 76 or 78. It's got about 20 acres of woods, and the rest of it's pasture. Some of it's somewhat steep, but you know, most of it's pasture. I forgot to mention, on the part of the farm we were just on, about half those cows are registered and the other half are non-registered. At this farm we have about, I think there's 20 first calf heifers, or I'm sorry, 20 yearling heifers that should be getting bred now to calve next year. There's 3 or 4 heifers that calve later than what they should be, so they're going to be kind of summer calving. I'm planning on probably selling them this fall as cow-calf pairs. And then there's 4 or 5 bulls in here. I've got young bulls running in here. I didn't want to keep them separate, so I just turned out all the bulls with the heifers. They're a mixture of weanling, yearling, and 1 2-year-old bull. So I think the 2-year-old bull will do most of the breeding. But again, this farm got a couple years ago, and then I'll show you the one. I'll move these cattle, kind of show you them, and then I'll show you one additional, our newest purchase. And I want to get into a little bit about the finances behind this. I mean, I don't want to give you the impression I've made a bunch of money on cattle and that's how I can afford this land, or I should say my wife and I. You know, the cattle I view as a separate investment. The cattle do make a little bit of money, but land is overvalued according to its recreational value and its you know, value as a home site. So the cattle can pay a part of the land, but the cattle cannot pay for the land. I don't want to give you that impression. But here, I'll show you these cows and I'll show you the other part of the farm. Okay, so here's the cows we were just talking about. This farm does have what I call city water, or you know, county water, and a mirror fount water tank. These are the cows. So I mean, talked about moving cows. I mean, the gap is actually, there's a handle here and a handle here. Me moving these cows is no more than me opening up that gap. They heard my truck, they heard me coming, they all came up, they know they're getting ready to be moved. So again, you know, doesn't take long. Okay, still in Baghdad. This farm behind me is one that we actually just purchased about a month ago. We'd been saving up money to build a house, and this farm next door became available, and basically the amount of money we had needed for a down payment was the exact amount of money we had saved up to build a house. So the house is gonna, I guess, go on the back burner for a little bit. So again, you know, I'm fortunate we were able to get that. Again, I'm trying not to come across as bragging about what we've been able to do, or my wife and I and our family. But I kind of wanted to show you, my purpose of this is to show you kind of our progression, and, you know, and what we have, I guess, been able to accomplish so far. But I'll kind of do a brief overview of what this farm is, and I am excited about the fact that we are going to be able to Well, this is 65 acres. It's 88 acres. 65 acres is in crops. So we're gonna have to do something I've never done before, which is turn crop ground back into pasture, and that's something I'm excited about learning. And I don't know how that's going to go or how quickly that can happen. So I'll kind of show you a brief overview of the farm. There's one other farm we haven't been to yet. That's the farm where we rent, another rental farm where we have our registered cattle. But again, I'll show you this real quick, and I think I think my wife and I will be at the other farm tomorrow. So I'll show you that. That's where we had done bell grazing videos, is on that other farm. It's about a 5 or 10 minute drive from here. And we manage it similar to the way we manage this farm, because they're both closer to where we live. Yep, so this is the newly purchased farm I was just talking about. It bordered the farm. This is the fence line. The farm we had before is on the left. That's the farm that I bought 2 years ago, the side of it. This fence line borders that property, and this is the new part. It actually has access, so the barns way in the distance are part of that. It has access off a different dead-end road. None of these farms have a lot of road frontage, so that's part of the reason we could afford it, is because they can't really be tracked up, that, to speak of. You can't really come in here and build 30 houses because there's not enough road frontage, and that's what makes it more economical to purchase a farm like that versus one that has tons of road frontage where a developer can come in and tract it up. So anyway, it's 88 acres. There's 65 acres in beans right now. Basically goes over to the tree line, goes back to that far tree line. In the little cluster of trees there's actually a 5-acre lot and a house that does not go with the farm, and then it has a little bit of road frontage over here, and then basically all the crop ground you can see is part of it. So I'm excited. We're going to work on fence. It's got some boundary fence, but it's going to need some fence work. So I can show you guys that process either this fall or next spring. We're going to have to try to convert this ground back into grass. Where the trees are, kind of at the bottom of the hill, there is some land that has not been used. It's kind of grown up, and we're going to have to clear that out, or probably put cows in it this winter and let them graze some of the grass that's underneath those trees, and maybe feed some hay in that area to try to get them to kind of trample some of that down and then go through and thin it out. So anyway, that's kind of things to come. And I'm going to kind of walk through that process with you guys, and we can see what works and what doesn't. And I'm excited about the opportunity, but it was a big chunk to bite, but hopefully it'll work out in the long run. 2 things I wanted to touch on real quickly. One is, there's a lot of stuff out on YouTube, a lot of people that are full-time or appear to be full-time grazers. And I just wanted to, give you guys encouragement that are not full-time grazers, that, you don't have to quit your day job to do this stuff. If this is what you enjoy doing, you can learn a lot and experiment and learn and get better and learn to be good at this before you even consider, quitting your day job and your normal job. And sometimes keeping your day job provides you the security financially of what you need to be able to enjoy everything else. Because I guess that's the biggest advice I would give is don't quit your day job. Keep doing what you know how to do and then if you eventually want to quit and you're financially able to do that later, that would be what I would recommend. I wouldn't recommend jumping in head first and hoping it works out, because it's not easy. It's not easy to do that. And then the second thing I was going to mention is from a financial standpoint. I mentioned that land is tough to buy, especially if you're running cattle on it and you're trying to get cattle to pay for that land. I'd say it's almost impossible. But however, renting land is really where it pencils out. So if you can rent land, develop a herd of cattle, and then use some of your profit from your cattle along with your extra income or profit from your regular job, and you can save up enough money, then you can potentially put a down payment on a farm, and then the cattle can, maybe not pay for the whole farm, but maybe help pay for that farm. And then you also have the cattle already, so you have some cash flow already established to help pay for the expenses of that. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there. I'm wrapping it up here in Baghdad, and we'll head to the other farm tomorrow.
Hey there, I'm Melissa. I'm Josh's wife. He's kept me hidden away until this point. I'm just kidding. I've actually kind of kept myself hidden away, but I was out here on our final farm today, and it was just easier for me to go ahead and record this video, kind of showing our scope of operation. I tend to be on this farm a little bit more than Josh. He does, like, no bones about it. He definitely does most of the farm work, but we do divide and conquer in a lot of ways, just kind of out of necessity. When you are part-time farming with a full-time veterinary job, it's just hard to get everything done yourself, and I do enjoy the farm work, and so I tend to especially do quite a bit of the grazing rotations and things like that on this farm. So we are on our final leased farm that I think we're going to show you guys. It's an 85-acre farm in Shelby County, Kentucky. We run between 25 and 30 registered Red Angus cows out here. You can also see we've got a couple of bulls in here right now because it's breeding season. But this is a farm that we tend to understock this farm. We work pretty hard to keep to take really good care to not overgraze this farm. So it's 25 to 30 cows is probably a little on the understocked side, we know that, but it's working okay for us and for what we're trying to accomplish here. So I'll just kind of show you what we do on this farm, and maybe show you a couple of the cows that we have here, and we'll go from there. So I came out here in the heat of the day today. I was hoping to maybe get the cows all grouped up, and it looks like they're actually in a couple of groups right now. This the two bulls are over here. This must be the group of cows that are cycling right now, because they're kind of following them around. This farm we have it divided up into about 8 paddocks that are 5 to 10 acres each. There's a pond over here that's our main water source for the farm, but we actually siphon, we use a siphoning system to siphon it down into a tank. There's also a creek where they can get some water, but we have this farm divided up in with like semi-permanent single strand electric. So we rotate through these paddocks every 5 or so days. They get moved. So we're not out here doing daily moves because we just can't. We don't have time, either one of us, but right now, kind of in the thick of grazing season, we're doing those moves every 5 or so days, and it seems to be working. There's one of our registered bulls out here, and a couple of our cows. I just wanted to take a minute and show you some of our calves from this year. These are our registered calves. These were all born in March. We started calving around March 15th or so, maybe March 17th. So these calves were born in March and April. We were pretty pleased with our calf crop this year. Looks like most of them are right here. The one black one is actually a Sim Angus, but the rest are all registered Red Angus. And again, these calves were born in March and April. Just kind of to wrap up here on this farm, I was just kind of thinking about how we operate on these farms. We're kind of spread out across 3 different counties on several different farms, and Josh is a full-time veterinarian. I am full-time with our kids and with our beef business, and it helps to have someone that does have some flexibility in their daily life. If you're doing what we're doing, you're inevitably going to get that call that the cows are out, and or that something needs attention. There's something calving in the middle of the day on a weekday when he's at work, and a lot of times I'm the one that ends up getting those calls because I do have flexibility in my schedule, and those calls are never fun. You have to adjust your day accordingly, but it really does help. I'm not sure that we could do what we do at the scale that we do if one of us did not have a degree of flexibility in their schedule. So that's just something to think about as we talk about kind of the scope of our operation, and I'm sure Josh will kind of wrap all this up together for us as we close out, and maybe I'll see you on a future video.
All right, guys, I appreciate Melissa doing that video. I just wanted to wrap everything up really quickly. We're actually out of town, so it kind of feels weird to do a video from not being out on the farm. But the only part of the operation we did not talk about is we do have a few people that are actually contract grazing for us on a small scale. So we have a neighbor in Baghdad that's a friend, and he's running about 28 head of our cattle. About half of them are fall-born weanlings, and the other half are spring-born yearlings. And then in Winchester, we have another neighbor that's grazing about 20 spring-born yearlings for us, and that'll be kind of our supply of beef for next year. So that's really the only part we haven't covered. We're kind of enjoying a weekend away, but I wanted to kind of wrap up this video and try to get something posted soon. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and again, you know, wanted to kind of show you kind of what we do on a part-time basis, and hope that you know, hopefully you've been maybe learned a little bit, and I'll try to post a lot more videos. I'm going to try to get one posted maybe about some fencing stuff, another one posted about maybe water. You know, lots of ideas on posting videos on the farm, the new farm. So again, I'll keep you guys updated, and I'm hoping I'm putting out information that you guys are interested in. Thank you.